It's been said everything happens for a reason. Kentucky author Leslie Gutman has a refreshing take on that careworn adage.
The bookstore was warm and cozy. It was packed, maybe because people didn't realize the rain had stopped. I was on a lunch break. I got a weird feeling. Someone was looking at me. I looked up. A woman with long black hair, about 5 feet away, quickly looked back down at the book she was leafing through. I looked down too. More people came in through the door. The gust of air that followed them smelled clean, as if it had been freshly laundered. I glanced up again at the dark-haired woman, in time to see her slip a book with a sky-blue cover into her satchel and walk off. I hesitated, and then I walked after her. "Psst," I said, pointing at the satchel. Up close, I saw that she was about 30 and probably homeless, or close to it. Her khaki parka was filthy, her hair matted. The satchel was faded and stained and bursting with her belongings. She gave me a sorrowful look. Then she handed me the book and ran off. As I leafed through the book, the manager came up behind me, apparently having seen what happened. It was a journal designed for someone who was grieving, someone like me. It was beautiful, the paper creamy and heavy. It had space to write the answers to statements like, "I miss the way you," and "It's hard for me to be without you when I..." "She's been wanting that book," said the manager. "She comes in all the time and looks at it. Sometimes she puts it on hold, but then she never gets it." Damn it, I thought. Why did I have to be such a goody two-shoes? When will I learn to mind my own business? Why didn't I just let her steal it? I ran out of the store. It was raining again. I thought I saw her parka up ahead. I caught up with her a block away. I tapped her on the shoulder. She turned around. Her eyes were dull, and she was missing some teeth. "Did you just lose someone?" I said. "My grandmother," she said. "I used to talk to her every day, and I miss her so much, I can't stand it." I told her about my stepdad, who had just passed away. His kindness and caring had helped knit our family together for over 18 years. I told her to wait a sec. I knew now I was in a Buddhist fable where nothing is an accident. When I came back and handed her the book, we both stood on the curb in the rain and wept. For the first time since my stepdad had died, I felt understood, as only a stranger can understand you, without inadequacy or regret. I believe life, or God, or whatever you want to call it, puts important strangers in our path so they can help us, or we them, or both. This I truly believe.
Author Leslie Gutman with her essay for This We Believe. She took a few minutes to sit down and talk to me about her essay and her book, Equine ER.
I read this essay at the Holler Poets. They had a gathering. I did the open mic, and I read this a couple months ago, and when I sat down, someone said, "Did that really happen?" And yes, it really, really happened. Yeah, everything happened. It's true.
On an obvious note, you're a published equine writer, but there's no mention of horses in your essay.
Well, throughout my career as a journalist, I had certain themes, and I think most writers and all creative people for that matter have themes. And one of my themes has been writing about situations where there's something great at stake. And even though the title is Equine ER, a lot of people have said, it's really not a horse book because it's about much more than that. It's about loss and redemption and, happy endings and the kind of universal experiences that we all have as humans. So I think that would be the connection with my essay because I feel like this experience touched on that for me.
You mentioned happy endings. Were there a lot of happy endings in this book, or is there a mix with sad stories?
I'm someone who likes happy endings, and so there's definitely some, it's a realistic portrayal of, life at the equine hospital. There's definitely some poor outcomes, but they're really outnumbered by the more positive experiences. And every chapter is about a different case or about some aspect of life at the clinic.
What else did you write up until Equine ER? Was it a weird transition?
It really wasn't. I worked at the San Francisco Chronicle for over 15 years as an editor and writer. And when I worked in one of the Sunday sections. I wrote features, essays, and commentary. I really like writing about, the last several years I was at the Chronicle, I wrote a lot about the inner city, about at-risk children. I wrote about an African-American family of teachers who, grew up in a tough part of the Bay Area and went on to college and then came back and started a school for at-risk kids. So, I've written a lot about the environment, science. I'm kind of a raving generalist. I just get excited about a subject and then just immerse myself in it. This was my first book, and, even though, it says by Leslie Gutman, so many people contributed to it, from everyone in the editorial process to everyone at Read and Riddle. I don't know. It doesn't feel like my book. So it definitely feels like a community project. It takes, being at this radio station, it is a lot of work.
Author Leslie Gutman. Her book, Equine ER, is the selection for WEKU's April Book Club meeting. More information at our website, weku.fm. And now an essay from Colleen O'Connell of Lakeside Park, who knows firsthand that nobody is perfect.
I believe that love cannot be separated from acceptance and forgiveness. My grandfather was an alcoholic, and he did a lot of things that hurt the family. Alcoholic. For a long time, I had no idea what this word meant. When I was a child, my mother, sister, and I lived with my grandparents. I would drink milk next to my grandpa while he drank whiskey. When he slammed down his glass, I'd slam down mine. "Grandpa, you're an alcoholic, and I'm a milkaholic," I'd say. He would laugh. Alcoholic. The word became more clear one day when I overheard my grandma tell my mom that he had tried to flush their wedding rings the night before. Alcoholic. The word meant you hurt someone's feelings, I decided. At the time, it was pretty accurate. One night, in a drunken fit, he kicked us out of the house. I don't remember that night, but I do remember not seeing Grandpa for 3 years. I remember Grandma moving into an apartment on her own. When I finally saw my grandpa again, I was in 3rd grade. We went to see him at a rehabilitation clinic. I had thought I was supposed to be angry with him, to dislike him, but when I saw Grandpa, I just remembered how much I loved him as he gave me a big hug and told me how pretty I was. Mom said we could see him again because he was trying. Trying. Sometimes when you try, you fail. This is what happened to Grandpa. Even though he struggled through rehab, he could never fully break his drinking. He was able to control the anger, though, and Grandma moved back in. We were allowed to visit him more. My Grandma and Mom had forgiven him. We accepted Grandpa despite his flaws. Grandpa was forgiven and accepted because his family loved him. In the end, Grandpa died as a wet alcoholic. There was a mug of iced whiskey on the table in the kitchen where he passed away. Even though Grandpa could not overcome this obstacle, he was still a hero to me. He was someone who cared very deeply about me and had great faith in my abilities. If I had not been able to have him back in my life, I would probably lack the confidence he reinforced as I grew into a young lady. I'm lucky enough to be able to say that the last thing I told Grandpa was, "I love you," as I was leaving my grandparents' house on the afternoon before he passed away. Sometimes, people cannot be fixed. They can only be accepted for who they are, forgiven for their mistakes, and loved completely. This I believe.
Colleen O'Connell of Lakeside Park. Another woman we received an essay from was Amanda Velez of Lexington. She believes that sometimes the darkest parts of someone's life can make it brighter.
I fear for myself. This I believe to be a dominant characteristic of my life. This fear has nothing to do with race or gender. Yo soy Boricua, pero I can easily pass as white. I am a woman, but fear of me has long surpassed any fear I have ever had of men. My body poses more of a threat to me right now than any lone penis in a dark alley or fist that has yet to strike me ever has. I fear for myself because my mind is at odds with my body. I am insatiable curiosity encased in a vessel addicted to Russian roulette. A ticking time bomb, so to speak. The bitter irony being that I won't even go out with a bang. No, I am allotted a departure similar to that of a daisy caught in the first frost of November. I know this because I have been told this. Puzzle pieces of medical jargon, euphemisms, justifications by God's will, and the hollow sympathy of strangers have combined across various periods of my life to create an unsatisfying bigger picture. Degenerate. Degenerative. Degenerative neuromuscular condition. Not necessarily a death sentence, more like a sentence fragment. A fragmented life, comma-spliced by hospital vacations, a crying mother, and various devices that turn children into cyborgs. Resistance is futile when your only chance at life is a life powered by a machine. Should I choose Energizer or Duracell? Which will help me last longer? Unfortunately, life does not come with a money-back guarantee. There are no exchanges. All sales are final. And I have the luxury of being reminded of this every time I must use 2 hands to lift a gallon of milk, or better still, when I have to use someone else's. I am reminded again every night when my heart flip-flops inside of me, painful and frantic, like making love for the first time. Sometimes I feel like I may die simply because of the effort I must exert to roll over in bed, but I like it because fearing death reminds me that I am alive. This is cliché, but it is not an exaggeration. I will die young, so I fear for myself because I don't want to die until I'm content with what I have learned. And if I have learned anything, discontent is the condition of my generation. I will always be too young to die. The withering petals of my body may or may not endure another 21 years, but my inquisitive nature is sure to last a lifetime. My lifetime at least.
Amanda Velez, a student at Transylvania University. She originally wrote her essay as part of a class assignment.
The whole This I Believe project, especially for my class, it's really been like a therapeutic experience because, you know, we're a class of strangers initially, and then we're writing these essays, and some of the things that, you know, I've written and other people have written are very deep, very personal things, and you know, you learn things about people that you really wouldn't learn otherwise without this. I feel like these essays are really important.
So how do you feel about such a personal bit of yourself being broadcast for half the state to hear?
At first, I was kind of embarrassed, really. I was embarrassed to read it in class. The first time I read this out loud, I started crying because, I mean, it's hard, you know, to let somebody know that you're hurting like this or you're just, you know, unhappy in that kind of a way. I felt like it was important, like that I've done something important by getting this out and sharing this part of me. And I think, I don't know, it might be good to like help alter people's perspectives because, I mean, you can't blame someone for something that they don't know, that they don't understand.
Other than just a stop and think about what you have kind of concept, what else would you want people to take away from hearing this essay?
Maybe not like a stop and think about what you have, but maybe just stop and think about what other people have. I guess that's kind of what I was getting at, because I let my parents read this, and my mom started crying, and she's like, "Is that how you really feel? Why have you never told us?" And I'm kind of like, well, you've never asked, you know? You're my mother, you ask me about a lot of things, but this isn't something you've ever really asked me about, how I feel about, you know, my condition. But maybe, I don't know, I guess just don't assume that somebody's okay because they're smiling.
Coming up, we'll hear more essays about the ideas and values of women of the Commonwealth, and we'll talk with a special guest. You're listening to This We Believe, a celebration of women on WEKU. I'm Nicole Robinson-Carroll. We'll return after a break. Support for This We Believe comes from the Women and Gender Studies program at Eastern Kentucky University, making the invisible visible. The Women and Gender Studies program offers a multidisciplinary minor and a certificate program. For more information, 859-622-2913 or www.womenstudies.eku.edu.